Thank you for being here. Thank you for this lovely film. And Nicola, let's start with you and tell us a little bit about where this came from.
Sure. So the concept of synesthesia was something that had always been super fascinating to me. And it was something that had always kind of been in the back of my mind, but not so much, I guess, in the front of my mind. And I was having a really long conversation one day with a friend of mine after finishing my first feature about, what do I want to do next? And I think I want to do something about a kid with like an extraordinary ability or difference, like maybe this or that or dyslexia or whatever. And my friend said, how about synesthesia? And I was like, oh yeah, because that's very cinematic, isn't it? And it was very smart, much smarter, I think, than some of the other ideas I had. And synesthesia, it's very cinematic because it's very, if we're dealing with visual and auditory synesthesia, and I say if because there's like 100 different other potential types of synesthesia, and visual and auditory are the two things that cinema is. And synesthesia has been, I don't know if I said this before, but it's been depicted in media before, in film and TV, but it's, as far as I know, and somebody will correct me now that I'm going to say this, I don't believe it has ever been at the dead center of a film before.
Pharrell's movie.
Well, okay. So there's a little thing, but
but you probably made this before. You might have even.
I did it first. So yeah. So that was the inspiration. There was just that I thought it would be such an interesting thing. It was sort of a challenge to myself to depict on screen, and see what work with VFX artists, work with animators, and see how it might turn out. And that was the genesis of what turned into Magnetosphere, which was otherwise just a pretty simple standard issue, coming of age, first love, first big awkward chapters of life kind of story.
Thank you. Let's ask. I'm going to ask to Zooey and Mikayla how you got involved. Maybe tell your stories of how this all came about and how you approached this project.
So I originally got the audition, and I already knew it was a really special project because I hadn't really seen anything like it. Like Nicola said, you don't really see movies about like synesthesia and stuff like that. So it was already really interesting from the start. And I remember seeing it and being like, wow, I gotta be a part of this project. So when I auditioned, I don't know, I just really, really, really hoped I'd made it. I just put my all into it. And I got it. And here I am, so yeah.
So when I got the audition, I'm like, oh, what's synesthesia? So my parents explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I had a lot of questions, and then I did the audition. Then I got a call back, and then I got the part.
That's wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about making this a unique set, and it was a really inclusive set, which I think we want to see more of. Can you tell us both? I want to hear this is really to the three of you, how this set was unique. What made it more accessible?
The credit here really goes to the producers because, when you have actors with disabilities, this is something that's imperative. It has to be an inclusive set. It has to be a safe set. There is no other option. And so there was a great deal of preparation, and really credit here goes to the crew because I was dead to the world. I was busy writing and directing. I was not able to do anything. They did everything to make it safe and to make it accessible. So, I think that's something that, Zooey, do you feel comfortable talking a bit about that and how they made it safe for you?
Sure.
Better than I.
Well, of course there were some stairs, but my parents helped me with that, and it was really safe, and I trusted everyone, and actually I remember there was in the script that I was supposed to run, and I remember asking Nicola, I'm like, what are we going to do for that? Because I can't really run that well.
You asked, do I have to run?
Oh, I asked, do I have to run?
Yeah, you said, do I have to run? I was like, yes, child, you must run. Is that what I said?
No.
Okay. Just for the record, I didn't say that.
Why was it important for you to make this a more inclusive project?
I think it's imperative for every project, because without that, you see the same old stories over and over and over again, and this is something that we don't need. The more actors with different abilities, with disabilities, the more actors who, represent different races, different cultures, different experiences, different backgrounds, the richer that cinema becomes, the richer that art in general becomes. And really, what is the point of art if not to see different points of view, different experiences represented? So it's something that I felt really lucky to be able to do with Magnetosphere. And there are a great deal of kind of more invisible disabilities or different abilities or neurological differences represented up there too. And not just in my head. I'm talking about the actors as well. Patrick McKenna has ADHD and is a big, Patrick McKenna, who plays the dad, and is a big advocate for actors who have, mental and neurological disabilities and differences. And he's a huge superstar in Canada. If anyone here has seen the Red Green Show, he is virtually unrecognizable. People are nodding. So he's the nephew who talks like this and has buck teeth and says, "Hi, Uncle Red." So he, there he is up there, not necessarily playing a character who, although I think there are ADHD traits in that character 1,000%, but he's representing something up there by being there, and it's nice to see that infuse the character as well.
And I have to ask in terms of acting also, my son, my 11-year-old, mentioned to me that that was Stephen He who is in the film. I did not know who that was, but he is a actor and a YouTube phenomenon, and really a major influencer. Is that the term? Mikayla, do you want to share?
I actually have a funny story that actually when Stephen He came. Me and him are not in any scenes together, but when
hate him. No, I mean in the movie.
That's true. But we would be together sometimes, like for recording, and he's from the United States, if you guys don't know, and we filmed in Canada. So what me and my mom and a lot of people on set did was we went to the nearest Walmart and we bought all the Canadian snacks for him, and like ketchup Cheetos and like Arrows, Kit Kat, Smarties, and then we brought that all to him, and it was a really fun time. Yeah.
Cool. He seems like a really nice guy, and I'll check out his YouTube and learn what emotional damage is. He coined that.
He's the emotional damage man.
What? Sorry.
He's the emotional damage.
The emotional
also,
damage.
He's Asian dad. That is his other persona.
Where's this film going? Tell us a little bit more about.
Yeah, so ReelAbilities is our second to last festival stop, at least as far as I know. I mean, what do I know? But, we have one more stop later this month, which is the Julian Dubuque Film Festival in Iowa, a really good festival. And after that, as far as I know, our next step is being distributed. Our distributor is going to release us online on a bunch of major platforms. I don't know which ones, but it'll be out there on July 18th and kind of be available to the world. After that, possibly not all regions at once, but certainly Canada, the United States. And then after that, your guess is as good as mine, but we shall see. I'm hoping that it'll be available in Europe. I know, we have the French translations, we have the Spanish translations, subtitles, so, hopefully that's what happens. It goes to those places.
And it is available this week through ReelAbilities stream as well, so you can tell your friends to see it there. And ladies, what's next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I did just do a callback for a commercial, but not really that I know of.
They'll put in a good word.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there's not much going on, but I do have a small role in a horror movie called The Whistle that's gonna come out soon, so yeah.
We will look for it. We'd love to make you a part of this conversation and pass you the microphone to ask your questions. So we have
one in front.
We have people roaming with the mic.
Hi. First of all, thank you all. I had a wonderful time watching the movie. One of the thoughts I had was the pivotal role that the, quote, diagnosis took in the film, and the way that things started to shift once there was a name for this wonderful creative constellation of traits and interests and so forth. And sometimes for people experiencing getting a diagnosis, it is a freeing thing, but many times it reduces a whole range of experiences to something very narrow. And I wonder how, in making the film, you grappled with that, how you thought that out.
Well, you're so much more articulate than I am that I'm wondering if you can just answer that question.
Well, you thought it out real good, I think.
Well, thank you. That was tricky for me because, in a way, once it does have a name, it sort of becomes less interesting because it's not just, oh, this is who she is, or from her point of view, this is who I am. I feel these things, I know these things, but I'm also getting older and I'm not sure I should be feeling these things, so I keep them to myself, and maybe they're shameful, maybe they're a secret, maybe they're weird. And I think the diagnosis, we don't even hear the word synesthesia until the fourth quarter of the film. I think once it has a name, it's all at once, it's a relief for her, and it's a sort of release for her of everything that she's been a little bit bound by, a little bit hamstrung by, a little bit, made more unsure of herself by. It doesn't have to have a name. There are so many things we have, so many things we deal with that literally never get a name. We're never going to get it. She didn't need a diagnosis. You don't need a neurologist. It doesn't work real well as a movie if she doesn't get a diagnosis. But, if she didn't get that diagnosis, she would just go on being the same individual that she is, and hopefully she would come to whatever terms with herself. But I think in this case, being able to get the label, being able to, kind of put the name on it, is what helps her come to terms with being herself and be like, oh, it is actually okay to be who I am. Good. I'm going to come to terms with this, which some of us, never can. Some of us are still working at.
And let me say that we showed this, as I mentioned earlier, this week to a middle school. And I think the way anyone can relate to the experience that they saw on the screen, made this all closer. You didn't have to have synesthesia to be able to relate to her experience, and that's really the magic of film, that you don't need to have that diagnosis.
No, you just need to have felt weird at some point in your life, and the movie works.
I trust you guys.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the musical element? What made you decide to do that? And by the way, you have the most beautiful voice.
Thank you.
And I loved actually, finding out that the plumber has probably the most amazing operatic voice. But
well, hands up all those who thought that was his real voice. Oh, one hand. Okay, good. The musical element. That was something that I wanted to include because music is one of those auditory things that can induce synesthesia. And I should stop here and say that every single person's experience of synesthesia is so incredibly different. There are no two who are alike. There are people who have looked at this film, people who have synesthesia, because I interviewed about 70 people with synesthesia as I was putting together this film. There was no freaking way to include all of their experiences, and many of their experiences could never translate to film, and they were just that, idiosyncratic and weird, and I wish there were a way to represent them, but they didn't all work, they didn't all fit. And, It was very difficult to include synesthesia that didn't somehow have sound, that didn't have color. But the reason the musical element came up so much was because one of the people that I interviewed, who's maybe a more prominent person with synesthesia, is a composer named Michael Torkey, who lives here in New York. And he had recently composed a suite for the New York City Ballet. And he was talking to me over lunch about how, the instrumentation I used for such and such movement was let's say it was a French horn, and that was more purple. And my mind sort of all of a sudden diverted, which it tends to do anyway. But I was sitting there and thinking, wait a minute, instruments and colors. And up to this point, I thought, I didn't think I was neurotypical, but I didn't think I had synesthesia. But all of a sudden, I had this extremely vivid flashback to having been 5 years old, listening to an audio cassette, because that's what was around when I was 5 years old, of a certain piece of classical music, which for anybody who feels like they want to know, is the Florida Suite by Frederick Delius. And that piece of music played for me in blue and green and orange jungle gym bars. And I realized, oh, that's why I'm so interested in this subject. Oh, okay. And so, up until that point, I thought I was just interested in it, just thought it was cool. But it turns out, no, this was part of my life, too. But I wanted to go back to one thing you were saying, because one of our dear friends and investors brought this up to me, saw the scene where Maggie sees patterns on the board, and the patterns turn into different patterns, and they are disturbing to her eye and disturbing eventually to her stomach and make her sick in school. And she said, quite rightly, that scene didn't work as much for me. And that scene is actually literally from the experience of another synesthete that I know who saw, and I don't know if it was the formal elements of art, but it was a bunch of like little images and stuff that was up on the board in school, and it like coalesced in that way and made her sick. And that's the thing. One synesthete can look at this and say, this does not make a lick of sense to me. And another one can say, this is exactly my experience. And you'll get, 70 synesthetes, 70 different experiences, 70 different opinions, because it just doesn't manifest the same way in any two people. There might be some things that are kind of in common. And I'm told that 4% of the population have this. I suspect it's higher because people like me don't know they have it until some composer tells them something. And you have to go to lunch with a composer first. He has to talk to you about French horns, and then that's when you self-diagnose. That's how it works.
Let's see. I like that voice you had. That was a very good act.
Thank you.
Question, what were you doing the thing called the what?
What do you mean, sorry?
Doing a play at the middle school, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't, wait, sorry, so
Beg your pardon?
Can you try again?
Can you try again?
You were doing a play at middle school, right?
You're not doing a play right now, are you?
No, I'm
don't
not,
think you're doing
but I'm doing a,
Oh, the Pirates of Penzance?
Yeah.
Are we talking about where they put on the musical?
Yeah. I like that thing you're doing. It was very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zooey, maybe you could share a little bit more about the work that you've done before, I found, and more work that you've been doing in terms of your voice work.
okay, sure. Well, I did when I just started to act, I was in a TV show, a cartoon called Lil Stompers. It's a kids' TV show about dinosaurs, and I play a pink pterodactyl named Breezy.
Did you get to sing for that one?
Yeah, a bit.
How about you, Mikayla? What were your previous roles?
So I started doing musical theater, and I fell in love with acting. So actually, my teachers at the musical theater place actually got me this amazing job and helped me get an agent, and it was a really amazing experience. Then I went on to get music video roles and commercial roles, and then I landed an episode on The Accused on Fox, and then I finally did this.
And how old were you when you did this movie? Do you remember?
I think I was 13, 12.
12 years old.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. We'll take one more question up there. I see in the middle. Oh, two. One up here, and then we'll take one down here.
I've been trying to think a question, but it's more of a statement. Sorry, but to your point, I have ADHD pretty badly, I guess. No, not badly. I have ADHD.
Well.
I yeah, exactly. Pretty well. Recently diagnosed too. I didn't need it, but I have it, which is cool. And before you said anything about Patrick McKenna, while I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, this guy. And then the movie never referred to it, but I was like, yeah, this guy. And then when you said it, I was like, cool. Game recognizes game, I guess. But there you go. So thank you for saying it, and yeah, that's all. No question, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Oh, I saw one down here. I don't know if there was another one. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you. The question was for the two actresses. I just want to know, how did you learn your lines?
Well, sorry, can I answer first? Yeah. I for some reason, I go to an acting school and I do like musicals and stuff, and for some reason, it's just easy for me to memorize my lines. So I just like read over them every single day, and then I just memorized them. Quite easy.
I think that everyone learns different ways and memorizes in different ways, but personally, just reread, and just practice and keep practicing, and then eventually you're just gonna get them. And then once you get them and practice them enough, then the emotion starts to just like come through, and it'll be great. Yeah.
These guys were word perfect. That's the other thing I have to say about them, is they got everything like is absolutely to the letter. It's so good.
What, was there any improvising on set, or was everything really
Less
by the
than
script?
you would think. Less than you would think. There are a couple things in there that are improvised. I couldn't begin to remember what, but it's like 2% of what you see up there.
I'm curious about the comedian who plays. I'm forgetting his name. Who
Colin
plays?
Mockery.
Yes. Was he bringing his own comedy there?
I
Because
told him
he's a big improviser.
That's what he's famous for. Is he's famous for being an improviser. If anybody watches or watched Whose Line Is It Anyway, that's right. And so, I told him here are the. She's like, oh, that's who that is. I told him, here are all these places where he will never improvise unless you say, here, go to town, you have free reign in this part. So I said, here are the parts where you can. He didn't always opt to do it. There were some places it would not have made sense. There are other places it did make some sense. He improvised something up there about I ate all your peanut butter. I didn't write that. I just thought it worked for me.
It's funny.
I wasn't going to be too picky in that situation, honestly.
Peanut butter is always funny. I want to thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being here. Thank you for this film.
And thank you guys.
Thank you for being a part of this conversation.